The next 2 days were uncomfortable. Isolde slept on my couch, used my bathroom, ate food from my fridge. She tried to make conversation, asked about my work, commented on the apartment. I gave her one-word answers and spent most of my time in my bedroom or out at coffee shops. On Christmas morning, she knocked on my bedroom door. "Come in," I said. She peeked inside. "I made coffee." "Thanks." "Gideon, can we talk? Really talk?" I set down my laptop. "About what?" She sat on the edge of my bed. "About how I ruined everything." "Okay." "That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? You already know you ruined everything." "I want to know if there's any chance—" She stopped. "Any chance you could forgive me?" "Probably not. Because of Cassian. Because of all of it. The lying, the stealing, the disrespect. Cassian was just the symptom. The disease was you stopped seeing me as a person." She looked down at her hands. "I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you only care now because Cassian couldn't give you what he promised. If he'd made good on Dallas, on the loft, on the future, you'd be there right now, not here. That's not fair. Life's not fair. You taught me that." She stood up. "I'm going to Rita's tonight. I know you said 3 days, but I can't stay here. It's too hard." "Rita's expecting you?" "She said I could come for Christmas dinner. I'll just stay there after." "Good idea." Isolde packed her suitcase. We stood in the living room, two people who'd once promised forever, now strangers dividing up coffee makers and deciding who got the better towels. "I'm sorry," she said, "for everything. I know you don't believe me, but I am. I believe you're sorry it didn't work out how you wanted. That's cruel. It's honest." She left without another word. I spent Christmas alone in my apartment, eating takeout Chinese food and watching basketball. It wasn't sad or lonely, it was peaceful. But that peace didn't last. December 27th, I got a call from an unknown number. "Is this Gideon Hawke?" Male voice, unfamiliar. "Who's asking?" "My name is Detective Martinez, Houston Police. I need to ask you some questions about Cassian Vey." My stomach dropped. "What about him?" "He filed a report claiming you've been harassing him. Stalking, threatening behavior, property damage. That's bullshit. So you deny the allegations?" "Completely. I haven't seen Cassian in weeks. He claims you've been following him, vandalizing his car, making threatening phone calls." "He's lying. Check my phone records. Check security cameras. I've been nowhere near him." "Why would he lie?" "Because I exposed him as a fraud at a networking event and destroyed his business relationships. This is revenge." Detective Martinez was quiet for a moment. "Can you come down to the station? Answer some questions officially?" "Am I being charged with something?" "Not at this time, but it would help clear things up." I went down that afternoon, spent 2 hours in an interview room, answering questions about my relationship with Cassian, where I'd been on certain dates, whether I'd ever threatened him. "Do you own a baseball bat?" Martinez asked. "No? Why?" "Someone smashed the windows on Mr. Vey's car last week. Witness said they used a bat. Wasn't me." "Where were you December 22nd between 10 and midnight?" "Home, alone, working on a project proposal." "Can anyone verify that?" "No, but I'm sure there's electronic evidence. My laptop logs, internet history, whatever." Martinez made notes. Finally he said, "You're free to go. But stay away from Mr. Vey. No contact, no communication." "Wasn't planning on it." I left the station furious. Cassian was trying to make me the villain in his story, trying to paint me as some unhinged ex-husband who couldn't let go. I called Patricia Chen, my attorney. "He can't just make false accusations," I said. "Actually, he can. Whether they go anywhere is another question, but you need to be careful, Gideon. No contact with him or Isolde. Document everything. If he's trying to build a harassment case, don't give him ammunition." "I haven't done anything." "I believe you, but courts care about evidence, And right now, it's your word against his. I hung up feeling trapped. I'd won. Cassian's business was destroyed. Isolde was homeless. Their fantasy had collapsed. But they weren't going down quietly. That night, my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole before answering. Cassian stood in the hallway. I didn't open the door. "You need to leave. We need to talk," he said through the door. "I was just at the police station because of you. I'm not talking to you about anything." "Please." 5 minutes. "No." "Gideon, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about everything. The affair, the lies, destroying your marriage, all of it. I just need to talk to you." I almost believed him. Almost opened the door. Then I remembered. Cassian was a con artist. This was what he did. Made people believe him, trust him, lower their guard. "You called the cops on me for harassment," I said. "And now you're at my door. How's that work?" I dropped the complaint. Convenient. I was angry. I blamed you for everything falling apart, but it wasn't your fault. It was mine. I made bad choices. And you want what? Forgiveness? I want to explain. Not interested. "Isolde left me," he said. 2 days ago. Took what money she had left and disappeared. Won't answer my calls. Good, I thought. About time she realized what you really are. "Still not my problem," I said. "I know, but I thought you should know, since you two were married. We're being the key word. She loved you, you know, before me, before everything got complicated. Doesn't matter now. Doesn't it?" Cassian's voice dropped. "I destroyed your marriage for a fantasy, and now I've lost everything too. My business, my reputation, my—" He stopped. "I guess we're both alone now." "No, you're alone. I'm free. Big difference." I walked away from the door, heard Cassian standing there for another minute before his footsteps retreated down the hall. I called Detective Martinez the next morning. "Cassian Vey came to my apartment last night," I said. "Thought you should know since he filed harassment charges against me." "He dropped those charges." "He also said he dropped them, right before he showed up at my door trying to talk to me." "Did you let him in?" "No, didn't even open the door. But I want it on record that he's the one making contact, not me." "I'll make a note. Thanks for calling." New Year's Eve, I got a text from Rita. "Isolde's gone, packed up and left this morning. Didn't say where." "Good riddance," I texted back. "You okay?" "Better than okay. I'm free." And I was. Free from Isolde's manipulation, free from Cassian's games, free from a marriage that had died months before I'd acknowledged it. I spent New Year's Eve at a party thrown by an old co-worker from my oil field days. Drank too much, laughed too hard, kissed a woman at midnight whose name I didn't catch. It was messy and imperfect and real. At 1:30 in the morning, standing on a balcony looking out at Houston lit up for the new year, my phone buzzed. Text from Isolde. "I'm sorry for everything. I hope you find happiness. You deserved better than me." I stared at the message for a long time. Thought about responding. Thought about all the things I wanted to say to her. Then I deleted it and put my phone away. Some stories don't need neat endings. Some people don't deserve final words. I knew my marriage was over the moment my wife introduced me as her roommate. Not in private. Not as some inside joke between us. She said it at her friend's birthday party in front of 30 people, with a martini in one hand and Cassian Vey's business card in the other. "Oh, Gideon?" Isolde laughed, that crystalline sound she reserved for crowds. "We're basically roommates at this point." The room went quiet for half a second. Then everyone laughed. Because what else do you do when someone makes a joke that cuts that deep? You laugh, you sip your wine, you pretend you didn't just witness a marriage dissolve in real time. I stood there holding a bottle of beer, wearing my best button-down shirt that Isolde said made me look presentable enough, and I smiled. Because I'm good at that. 13 years working oil fields in West Texas taught me how to keep my mouth shut and my face neutral when someone's trying to get under your skin. But inside? Inside, I was taking notes. The party was at Ophelia Trent's place, one of those renovated lofts in downtown Houston with exposed brick and too much chrome. Isolde worked with Ophelia at some marketing firm that paid obscene money for people to argue about font choices. I'd met Ophelia maybe 6 times, and each time she looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of Isolde's designer shoe. "So what do you do, Gideon?" some guy in a pink polo asked me. He had that tech startup energy, all nervous hands and loud voice. "Consulting," I said. "Oil and gas infrastructure." "Oh." His face fell. In Houston, saying you work in oil is like announcing you're a dinosaur at a vegan convention. "That's cool." He wandered off. I drank my beer and watched Isolde work the room. She was good at it, always had been. That's what attracted me to her 12 years ago. She could walk into any space and own it within minutes. Tonight she wore a black dress that probably cost more than my truck payment, her dark hair swept up to show off the diamond earrings I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary. Back when I thought expensive gifts meant something. Cassian Vey entered at 9:30. I knew who he was before Isolde even reacted. She'd mentioned him maybe 3 times over the past month. Old college friend, works in real estate development, very successful. The way she said successful should have been my first clue, but I was busy working 80-hour weeks trying to build up my consulting business after leaving the oil fields. He was tall, well-built in that gym rat way, wearing a suit that fit too perfectly to be off the rack. Expensive watch, expensive smile, expensive everything. Isolde saw him, and her whole body changed. Posture straightened, voice pitched higher. She excused herself from whatever conversation she was having and moved across the room like a heat-seeking missile. I watched from the kitchen doorway. "Cassian!" She air-kissed both his cheeks, European style. "We're from Texas. I'm so glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it," he said. His voice had that smooth quality of someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. Ophelia's parties are always memorable. They talked for 45 minutes straight. I counted. At first I tried to be reasonable. They're old friends. People catch up. But there's catching up. And then there's the way Isolde kept touching his arm, laughing at everything he said, angling her body away from the rest of the room, creating their own private world in the middle of a crowded party. My cousin Rita found me on the balcony around 10:30. "You okay?" she asked. Rita was the only family I had in Houston, worked as a nurse at Methodist, saw through bullshit like it was her superpower. "Fine," I said. "Liar." She leaned against the railing next to me. "How long's this been going on?" "What?" "Don't play dumb, Gideon. You're the smartest guy I know. You see what's happening in there?" I drank my beer. Down below, Houston sprawled out in all directions, a sea of lights and possibility. Somewhere in that city was a version of my life that made sense. This wasn't it. "She's networking," I said. "Her job requires social connections." "Is that what you call it?" Rita snorted. "Baby, I've been married 22 years. I know what networking looks like. That ain't it." Before I could respond, Isolde appeared in the doorway. "There you are." She smiled at Rita, ignored me completely. "Rita, you have to meet Cassian. He's developing that new mixed-use project downtown. The one with the rooftop gardens?" Rita glanced at me. I shrugged. "Sure," Rita said. We went back inside. Isolde led us straight to Cassian, who was holding court near the bar with 3 other people hanging on his every word. "Cassian, this is Rita, Gideon's cousin." Isolde gestured vaguely in my direction. "And you remember Gideon, my—" She hesitated, just for a second. "Husband," she finished. The word came out like an apology. Cassian extended his hand. Right. Good to meet you, man." His handshake was firm but not aggressive. Practiced. He looked me in the eye and smiled, and I understood immediately that he didn't see me as a threat. I was some blue-collar guy who got lucky marrying up, probably wouldn't understand the complexities of real estate development or investment portfolios. He had no idea who he was dealing with. "So, what do you do, Gideon?" Cassian asked. Same question everyone asked, but with that edge of condescension that made it clear he already knew the answer wouldn't impress him. "I consult on petroleum infrastructure integrity," I said. "Pipeline systems, refinery operations, safety protocols. I just finished a contract with Chevron." That usually shut people up. Chevron paid me more in 3 months than most people made in a year. Cassian nodded. "Interesting. That industry's really facing challenges with the green energy transition, isn't it?" Translation: your job's obsolete. "Every industry faces challenges," I said. "Adaptability is key." "Absolutely." He turned back to Isolde. "So, about that proposal I mentioned." They launched into some discussion about branding strategies and market positioning. I stood there for 30 seconds, then walked away. Nobody noticed. Rita followed me back to the balcony. "He's a piece of work," she muttered. "He's successful," I said. That's what matters to Isolde these days. Success isn't everything. Tell her that. We stood in silence for a while. Below us, a couple argued on the sidewalk, their voices carrying up through the night air. I wondered if they knew yet that they were finished, or if they were still in that phase where you think you can fix it. "When did it change?" Rita asked quietly. "About 18 months ago." I'd thought about this a lot. Right after I left fieldwork and started consulting, I thought making more money would make her happy. Turns out she just wanted me making money and staying out of her way. You need to confront her. About what? Talking to an old friend at a party? Gideon. I'm not blind, Rita. I see what's happening. But I need proof before I do anything. Proof for what? Divorce? I didn't answer. Down on the street, the couple's argument ended with the woman walking away. The man stood alone under a streetlight, watching her go. "Let's head back in," I said, before Isolde notices I'm gone and pretends to care. The party wound down around midnight. People filtered out in small groups, making plans for brunch, exchanging numbers, promising to stay in touch, knowing they wouldn't. I helped Ophelia clean up, mostly because it gave me something to do, while Isolde said her prolonged goodbyes to Cassian near the door. "You're too good for her," Ophelia said suddenly. I looked up from loading the dishwasher. "What?" "Isolde." Ophelia handed me more glasses. "You're too good for her. You always have been." This was surprising. Ophelia and Isolde were supposedly best friends. "That's a strange thing to say about your friend," I said carefully. Ophelia shrugged. "I love Isolde, but I'm not blind. She takes you for granted. And that guy Cassian?" She lowered her voice. "He's bad news. He dated my roommate last year, promised her the world, then ghosted her when someone richer came along." "Good to know," I said. I probably shouldn't have said anything. Ophelia looked nervous. "Just be careful. Isolde's been different lately, distracted. I've noticed." We finished cleaning in silence. When I came out of the kitchen, Isolde was finally alone, checking her phone with a small smile on her face. "Ready?" I asked. She looked up like she'd forgotten I existed. "Oh, yes, let me just—" She typed something quickly, then put her phone away. "Okay." We said goodbye to Ophelia and headed down to the parking garage. Our footsteps echoed in the concrete space. Isolde walked 3 feet ahead of me, her heels clicking against the ground. "That was a good party," she said. "Uh-huh. I made some really valuable connections tonight. Cassian says there might be an opportunity with his company. They need someone to handle their marketing for the new development." "Great. You could sound more enthusiastic." I unlocked the car. "I'm enthusiastic. You're passive-aggressive." "I'm tired." We drove home in silence. Our apartment was in Pearland, a suburb south of Houston that pretended to be fancier than it was. We'd moved here 3 years ago when I got my first big consulting contract. Isolde picked the place, modern complex, amenities, close to the freeway for her commute. I hated it. The walls were thin, the neighbors were loud, and every surface was that generic builder-grade material that wore out within months. But Isolde loved showing it off to her friends, loved saying we lived in the new development off 288. We got home at 1:15. Isolde went straight to the bedroom, already typing on her phone. I grabbed another beer and sat on the balcony, looking out at the parking lot and trying to figure out when my life had become something I wanted to escape from. My phone buzzed. Text from Rita. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said out loud. "We're okay." She reached over and touched my arm. First time in months. "Good. I worry about us sometimes." "Don't," I said. "Everything's going to work out exactly how it's supposed to." She fell asleep within minutes. I lay awake until dawn, planning. I left before dawn. Not permanently, Isolde would notice that, but early enough that I could make my point. I'd been awake most of the night, documenting everything I could remember about the party, cross-referencing dates on Isolde's calendar with her credit card statements. I had access to our joint accounts, and while I couldn't see specific purchases without the full statements, I could see the charges, hotels, restaurants, places she'd supposedly been at, networking events. Around 4:30, I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen counter. "Morning, Isolde. Had to head out early for a site inspection in Beaumont. Should be back late. By the way, you left your phone unlocked last night. Interesting conversation with someone whose number isn't saved. Might want to be more careful. G." That last part was a bluff. Her phone had a passcode I didn't know, but she didn't know I didn't know, and the uncertainty would eat at her. I grabbed my go bag, something I'd started keeping packed 2 weeks ago after Rita pointed out what was obvious to everyone but me, and headed out. The apartment complex was quiet, just a few early shift workers heading to their cars. I threw my bag in the truck and drove. Beaumont was a real job, actually. A refinery wanted me to assess their aging pipeline system, make recommendations for maintenance versus replacement. I'd scheduled it for today specifically because I knew Isolde had the day off and would probably spend it planning her next move with Cassian. Let her wonder where I was. Let her worry about what I knew. The drive to Beaumont took 90 minutes. I called Rita from the road. "It's 5:30 in the morning," she answered groggily. "I need a favor." "Gideon? What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I just need you to be available if Isolde calls you today." "Why would she call me?" "She might be trying to figure out what I know." "If she does, just tell her you haven't talked to me since the party." Silence on the other end. Then, "What did you do?" "Nothing yet. I just left her a note that'll make her nervous." Jesus, Gideon. Is this really how you want to handle this? "I'm not handling anything. I'm just gathering information." That's what you call psychological warfare these days? I call it leveling the playing field. Rita sighed. "Fine, but promise me you're not going to do anything stupid." "Define stupid." "Gideon, I promise I won't do anything illegal or violent. How's that?" "I guess it'll have to do. Be careful, okay? You're swimming with sharks." Good thing I've been swimming in worse. The refinery job took most of the day. I walked miles of pipeline, took measurements, documented wear patterns, made notes about which sections needed immediate attention. It was mindless work that let my brain run in the background, processing everything I'd learned last night. Isolde and Cassian were planning something. The phone call made that clear. "Set things up," she'd said. "Be smart about this." That meant they weren't just having some spontaneous affair. This was calculated. They had a timeline. I needed to figure out what that timeline was. Around 2 in the afternoon, my phone started buzzing. 3 missed calls from Isolde, 2 texts. "Where are you?" "We need to talk. Now." I didn't respond. Let her sit with it. The refinery manager took me to lunch at a diner near the facility. While he talked about their budget constraints and timeline expectations, I checked my phone under the table. 7 more texts from Isolde. "This isn't funny." What did you see? You're being paranoid. Can you just call me back? Gideon, seriously. I don't know what you think you know, but you're wrong. Fine, don't answer. But we are talking when you get home. The refinery manager was still talking about valve replacements. I nodded at appropriate moments and drafted my response to Isolde. Can't talk working. Home around 9. G. Short, neutral. Gave her nothing to work with. My phone rang immediately. Isolde's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call. Everything okay? The refinery manager asked. Fine, I said. Just my wife. Nothing urgent. But it was urgent to her, and that meant my note had hit the target. I finished up at the refinery around 6 and stopped at a coffee shop in Beaumont before heading back. I needed to make copies of some documents, financial records, phone bills, anything that might be useful later. The coffee shop had a printer, and for $3 I could scan and print whatever I needed. I pulled up our bank statements on my laptop. We had a joint checking account and a joint savings account. Isolde also had her own checking account from before we got married, something about maintaining financial independence, and I'd never asked for access because I didn't care. We both contributed to the joint accounts, paid bills from there, and what we did with our individual money was our business. Now, I was regretting that decision. The joint checking showed regular transfers to Isolde's personal account. Nothing unusual there. We'd agreed she could move money around as needed. But the amounts had been increasing over the past few months. 500 here, 1,000 there. Last week she'd transferred 3,500. I made notes, printed copies, saved everything to a flash drive. The savings account was worse. We'd had about 40,000 in there 6 months ago. Now it was down to 18,000. When I looked at the withdrawal history, most of it had gone out in large chunks. 8,000 here, 12,000 there, all transferred to Isolde's personal account. My coffee sat cold while I went through every transaction. By the time I finished, I had a clear picture. Isolde had been systematically draining our joint accounts. Not enough to empty them, but enough to build up a nest egg in her personal account that I couldn't touch. She was planning to leave, and she was making sure she'd be comfortable when she did. The smart move would have been to freeze the accounts right then, but I didn't. Because I needed her to think she was winning. People got sloppy when they thought they had the upper hand. I drove back to Houston slower than necessary, taking the scenic route through small towns where nothing ever changed and nobody cared about real estate developments or marketing campaigns. Part of me wanted to just keep driving, disappear into the Texas heartland, let Isolde have whatever life she was planning with Cassian. But I'd never been good at running away. I got home at 9:40. The apartment lights were all on, and I could see Isolde pacing in the living room through the window. She'd been waiting. I took my time walking from the parking lot, carrying my bag, rehearsing different approaches. Stay calm, don't give her ammunition. This was reconnaissance, not confrontation. The door was unlocked. I walked in to find Isolde standing in the middle of the living room, arms crossed, face flushed with anger. "What the hell was that note about?" she demanded. "Hello to you too," I said, dropping my bag by the door. "Don't give me that. You left some cryptic message about my phone and then ignored me all day." "What's going on?" I walked past her to the kitchen, grabbed a beer from the fridge, took my time opening it. "I told you. I saw an interesting conversation on your phone." "My phone was locked." "Was it?" I took a drink. "Huh, must have been confused." Her eyes narrowed. "You're lying." "Am I?" "Yes. You didn't see anything because there's nothing to see." "Okay. Okay? That's all you have to say?" I shrugged. "What do you want me to say, Isolde? I left for work. You freaked out. Now you're mad at me for something I may or may not have seen. Seems like a lot of energy for nothing." She stared at me for a long moment. I could see her mind working, trying to figure out what I actually knew versus what I was guessing. "You're being paranoid," she said finally. "Probably." "I'm serious, Gideon. You've been acting weird lately. Distant. Is this about last night? About me introducing you as my roommate? You did that, huh? It was a joke. Jesus, you're so sensitive. Right. A joke. I finished my beer. I'm tired. Long day. I'm going to bed. I walked toward the bedroom. Isolde followed. We're not done talking about this. Seems like we are. Gideon, I turned to face her. What exactly do you want from me right now? An apology for leaving a note? Reassurance that everything's fine? What? She opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time since I'd known her, Isolde looked uncertain. I just want things to be normal, she said quietly. Things are normal, I said. This is what normal looks like now. I went into the bedroom and closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed and waited. After a few minutes, I heard Isolde moving around in the living room. The TV came on, the sound of her typing on her phone. I pulled out my laptop and continued my research. If Isolde was transferring money out of our joint accounts, she had to be putting it somewhere. Her personal checking, probably, but maybe also other places. Investment accounts. Maybe even giving some to Cassian to invest for her. I opened a private browser window and searched for Cassian Vey's company, Vey Development Group. Their website was all glass buildings and sunset photos, testimonials from satisfied clients, renderings of projects, coming soon. Standard developer bullshit. But when I dug deeper, checked business filings, LLC registrations, property records, things got interesting. Vey Development Group was only 3 years old. Before that, Cassian had been part of another development company that went bankrupt in 2021. Before that, he'd worked for a firm that got sued for fraud. This wasn't just some successful businessman. This was a serial failure who'd gotten good at presenting himself as a winner. And Isolde was falling for it. I saved everything to my flash drive. Then I pulled up a flight search engine and started looking at Isolde's credit card statements again. 2 months ago, she'd charged a flight to Miami. Round trip, 3 days. She'd told me it was a work conference. I called the hotel listed on her statement. Thank you for calling the Maritime Hotel. How can I help you? Hi, I'm trying to confirm a reservation for my wife. She stayed there in early August. Last name Hawke, Hawke. One moment, please. Typing sounds. Yes, I show a reservation for August 7th through 9th. Mrs. Hawke and her guest. My stomach dropped. Her guest? Yes, sir. The room was registered for 2 people. Right. Of course. Thank you. I hung up before the clerk could say anything else. Isolde had taken Cassian to Miami. On our money. And I'd been home working 70-hour weeks, thinking my wife was building her career. I opened a new document and started writing down everything. Every lie, every transaction, every piece of evidence. I needed this organized. I needed a plan. Because this wasn't just about catching Isolde in an affair anymore. This was about making sure that when everything fell apart, I wasn't the one left with nothing. I worked until 3 a.m, building my case, mapping out my next steps. By the time I finally fell asleep, I had 6 months of documentation organized by date, a list of questions I needed answered, and a growing sense that whatever Isolde and Cassian were planning, it was happening soon. I just needed to figure out when, and then I needed to make sure I was 3 steps ahead of them when it did. Over the next week, I became a ghost in my own life. I went to work, came home, slept in the same bed as Isolde. We had conversations about groceries and bills and whose turn it was to take out the trash. On the surface, everything looked normal, but underneath, I was documenting everything. Isolde didn't know I'd cloned her phone. It happened on Tuesday. She left her phone charging in the bedroom while she showered. I had maybe 7 minutes. I'd already done the research. There were apps you could install that would mirror everything from one phone to another. Text messages, calls, emails, even location data. Totally legal as long as you owned both phones, which technically we did since we were married and her phone was on our family plan. The app installed in 90 seconds. I deleted the confirmation email from her inbox, cleared the browser history, put her phone back exactly where she'd left it. By the time Isolde got out of the shower, I was in the kitchen making coffee like nothing had happened. "Morning," I said. She grunted in response, grabbed her phone, scrolled through it for a minute, didn't notice anything. Then she poured her coffee and disappeared into the bedroom to get ready for work. I waited until she left, then pulled up the mirroring app on my laptop. Everything was there. Every text message, every call, every email. It was like reading someone's diary, except the diary was actively being written in real time. The most recent text was from Cassian. "Same place tonight? 7? Isolde's response, "Can't. G's been weird. Let's do Thursday instead." Cassian, "He knows." Isolde, "He suspects. There's a difference. Just give me a few more weeks to get everything in order." Cassian, "I don't like waiting." Isolde, "Nobody's asking you to like it. Just be patient." I scrolled back further. Weeks of messages. Months. It had started in March, 9 months ago, when Cassian had reached out on LinkedIn, mentioned he was in Houston, suggested meeting for coffee to catch up. The early messages were innocent enough, old friends reminiscing. Then they got flirtier, then explicit, then planning. By June, they were talking about leaving their respective situations. Cassian was apparently married too, though he'd never mentioned his wife at the party. They'd discussed renting an apartment together, starting fresh, building something new. In July, Isolde had suggested waiting until after the holidays. "Less suspicious," she'd written. "We can say we grew apart. Clean break." Cassian hadn't liked that idea. He wanted to move faster. But Isolde had insisted, and eventually he'd agreed. Now it was October. The holidays were approaching. Whatever timeline they'd set was getting close. I spent the rest of Tuesday reading through everything. The texts were bad enough, but the emails were worse. Isolde had been applying to jobs in Dallas. Cassian was supposedly looking at properties there. They'd talked about which neighborhoods had the best schools, which was interesting since neither of them had kids. Around noon, my phone rang. "Rita, please tell me you're not doing anything crazy," she said without preamble. Define crazy. "Gideon, I'm working, from home today. Nothing crazy about that. Isolde called me this morning, asked if you'd said anything to me recently about your marriage." I closed my laptop. "What did you tell her?" "I told her we talked at the party, but that was it. She didn't believe me." "She's paranoid. She's worried. There's a difference. What are you doing?" "Watching. Waiting." "For what?" "The right moment." Rita sighed. "You know this is going to end badly, right?" "It's already bad. I'm just deciding how it ends." "That's not healthy, Gideon." "Neither is letting my wife rob me blind while she plans her escape with her boyfriend. Yet here we are." Silence. Then, "How much?" "How much what?" "How much has she taken?" I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd been building. About 32,000 from savings, another 8,000 in cash withdrawals from checking over the past 6 months. Plus, she's been charging things to credit cards I didn't know existed. Got the statements forwarded to her office instead of our apartment. Rita whistled low. "Jesus." "Yeah." "What are you going to do?" "Haven't decided yet, but whatever it is, I need more information first." "Like what?" "Like where exactly they're meeting Thursday at 7, and what they're planning." I hung up with Rita and went back to monitoring Isolde's phone. Over the next 2 days, I tracked every movement. She went to work, came home, went to the gym, met Ophelia for lunch. Normal life. Except her texts with Cassian continued in the background, a parallel reality where she was planning to leave me and start over. Thursday arrived. I told Isolde I had a late meeting with a client in Sugarland, wouldn't be home until 9 or 10. "Okay," she said, barely looking up from her phone. "I've got dinner with Ophelia anyway." Liar. I left the apartment at 6, drove halfway to Sugarland, then circled back and parked 3 blocks from the Marquis Hotel. Cassian's texts had confirmed the location that morning. Room 1847, can't wait. Isolde had responded with a heart emoji. I sat in my truck with a clear view of the hotel entrance and waited. At 6:50, Isolde's BMW pulled into the valet lane. She got out wearing a dress I'd never seen before, laughed at something the valet said, and walked inside like she owned the place. I gave her 5 minutes, then followed. The Marquis was one of those boutique hotels that pretended to be exclusive but would rent a room to anyone with a credit card. The lobby was all dark wood and low lighting, jazz playing through hidden speakers. I walked past the front desk like I belonged there, took the elevator to the 18th floor. Room 1847 was at the end of the hall. I stood outside for a full minute, listening. Voices inside, muffled but distinct. Isolde laughing, Cassian saying something I couldn't make out. I took out my phone and started recording, pressed it against the door. The audio was terrible, too much interference, but I could make out enough. Isolde saying something about by Christmas, Cassian saying Dallas. After 10 minutes, I left. Went back to my truck, drove to an actual client meeting I'd scheduled as cover, spent 2 hours discussing pipeline corrosion while my brain spun in circles. By the time I got home at 10:30, Isolde was already there, showered and changed, watching TV like she hadn't just spent 3 hours in a hotel room with another man. How was dinner with Ophelia? I asked. Good, she said. We went to that new Italian place on Kirby. The one with the truffle pasta? Yeah, you'd like it. I stood in the doorway watching her. She looked relaxed, happy, content with her lies. Maybe we should go together sometime, I said. She glanced at me, surprised. Yeah, maybe. I miss doing things together. Gideon, I know things have been weird. I know I've been working a lot. But I want to fix this, us. For a moment, just a flicker, I saw guilt cross her face. Then it was gone, replaced by that carefully neutral expression she wore when she was managing me. That's sweet, she said. But it's late. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Sure. I went to the bedroom and pulled out my laptop. The mirroring app showed new texts between Isolde and Cassian, sent while I was driving home. Isolde. He said he wants to fix things. Cassian. Too little too late. Stay strong. Isolde. I know, just feels weird. Cassian. Guilt is natural. Doesn't mean you're making the wrong choice. Isolde. You're right. I'll see you Monday? Cassian. Can't wait. Love you. Isolde. Love you too. I closed the laptop and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Isolde came in 20 minutes later, got ready for bed, slid under the covers like everything was normal. Gideon? She said in the darkness. Yeah? Are we okay? We're fine, I said. I mean it. Are we really okay? No, I thought. We're not okay. We haven't been okay for a long time. You're planning to leave me for a con artist. You've been stealing our savings, and you're lying to my face every single day. We're the opposite of okay. The opportunity came faster than I expected. Friday afternoon, Cassian texted Isolde. Emergency. Wife found the credit card statements. Need to see you. Now. So he was married, and apparently his wife was smarter than he'd given her credit for. Isolde responded immediately. Where? Parking garage. Level 4. Our spot. I knew that garage. It was attached to Cassian's office building downtown, one of those multi-story concrete structures where nobody paid attention to anything. I'd driven past it twice this week, mapping exits and blind spots. I called in sick to my afternoon meeting and headed downtown. The garage was exactly as anonymous as I'd remembered. I parked on level 3 near the stairwell and waited. At 2:40, Isolde's BMW pulled onto level 4. I watched through the stairwell window as she parked in a far corner, next to a silver Mercedes that must have been Cassian's. He got out of the Mercedes looking agitated. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the quick movements of someone barely holding it together. Isolde got out and immediately went to him. They talked for maybe 30 seconds before she pulled him into a hug, standing there in broad daylight, embracing like teenagers, not caring who might see. I walked up the stairs slowly, quietly, got within 20 feet before either of them noticed. "Problem?" I asked. They jumped apart. Isolde's face went white. Cassian recovered faster, straightening his jacket, putting on that businessman smile. "Gideon," he said, "interesting running into you here." "Is it?" I looked at Isolde. "I thought you had a work thing this afternoon." "I do. Cassian needed," she stammered, caught off guard. I'd never seen her speechless before. "Needed what?" I took a step closer. "Comfort? Advice? Or were you planning where to spend my money next?" Cassian held up his hands. "Look, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," I said. "You're sleeping with my wife. She's been draining our bank accounts. You two are planning to run off to Dallas. Did I miss anything?" Isolde found her voice. "How did you—" "Doesn't matter how. What matters is it's over, both of you. Done." Cassian laughed, actually laughed. "You can't tell me what to do." "You're right. But I can tell you what's going to happen. You're going to walk away from Isolde. You're going to go fix your own failing marriage, and you're going to forget she exists." "Or what?" Cassian stepped forward. He had 3 inches and probably 30 pounds on me, trying to be intimidating. I didn't move. "Or I call your wife right now, tell her everything, show her the hotel receipts, the text messages, the whole thing. Then I call your business partners, show them how you've been using company resources to fund an affair, see how that affects your current development deals." His smile faltered. "You wouldn't." I pulled out my phone. "Try me." "Gideon, stop." Isolde moved between us. "Can we please talk about this like adults?" "Like adults?" I stared at her. "You want to talk like adults now? After months of lying to my face? I was going to tell you— When? Christmas? After you'd taken everything and left?" She had no answer for that. Cassian grabbed her arm. "Come on. We don't have to listen to this." I caught his wrist. Not hard. Just enough pressure to make my point. "Take your hand off her. She's not your property. And she's not yours either." We stood there, locked in place. 3 people who'd reached the end of their carefully constructed lies. Then Cassian made a mistake. He swung at me. I saw it coming from a mile away, all that telegraphed rage, the kind of punch someone throws in movies. I stepped back, let his momentum carry him forward, then shoved him hard into the concrete pillar behind me. He hit with a satisfying thud, stumbled. I didn't follow up, didn't need to. "Walk away," I said. "Right now, while you still can." Cassian touched his shoulder where he'd hit the pillar. His expensive suit was scraped. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncertain. "This isn't over," he said. "Yeah, it is." He looked at Isolde, waiting for her to choose, to come with him, stand by him, prove that their affair meant something. She didn't move. After a long moment, Cassian got in his Mercedes and drove away. The squeal of his tires echoed through the garage. I turned to Isolde. "Go home. Pack your things. You've got until Monday." "Gideon, please." "Monday," I repeated. "After that, I'm changing the locks and filing for divorce. You can keep whatever you stole from our accounts. Consider it a going-away present." "You can't just kick me out. It's my apartment, too." "Actually, it's not. Lease is in my name only. You never wanted your name on it, remember? Didn't want to affect your credit score." Her face crumbled. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Call Cassian." "Oh, wait. He's got his own problems now. Maybe Ophelia will let you crash on her couch." I walked toward the stairwell. Isolde called after me, voice cracking. "I loved you. Once. I really did." I stopped, looked back at her standing alone in that parking garage, perfect hair and perfect dress and perfect lies. "I know," I said. "That's the worst part." I left her there and drove home. hands shaking on the wheel, adrenaline burning through my system. I'd confronted them, actually done it. No more surveillance, no more gathering evidence. I'd looked Cassian in the eye and taken back control, but when I got home, the apartment felt wrong, empty, like all the air had been sucked out. I sat on the couch and waited for Isolde to come back. Didn't know what I'd do if she did. Throw her out? Listen to her explanations? Break down and forgive her? She didn't come back. Not that night, not the next morning. Saturday afternoon, I got a text. Staying at a friend's. Need time to think. We should talk. Really talk. Not just threats. I didn't respond. Sunday, Rita called. Isolde showed up at my place last night, crying, said you kicked her out. And she's sleeping on my couch right now, so maybe you want to tell me what the hell happened. I filled her in. The parking garage. Cassian throwing a punch. Isolde standing there choosing nothing. Jesus, Rita muttered. You actually hit him? He hit the pillar. I just helped with the trajectory. That's semantics. That's the truth. So what now? Now I file for divorce. Isolde gets her share, I get mine, we both move on. Is that what you want? I thought about it, really thought about it. Did I want Isolde back? Want to try to rebuild what we'd had before Cassian, before the affairs, before she'd reduced me to a roommate at parties? I want her to understand what she threw away, I said finally. I want her to realize she gambled on a con artist and lost. That's revenge, not closure. Maybe I need both. Rita sighed. She can stay here tonight, but tomorrow you two need to figure this out like grown-ups. No more games. Tell her she's got until Monday to get her stuff. After that, I'm donating it all to Goodwill. I hung up before Rita could argue. The apartment was too quiet. I spent Sunday organizing everything, boxing up Isolde's things, documenting what belonged to who, separating our lives into neat piles, clothes here, books there, kitchen stuff we'd bought together, who got the fancy blender, the Le Creuset pot she'd insisted we needed. In the back of her closet, I found a box, old photos from college, Isolde young and carefree, arms around people I didn't recognize, and there, in at least 6 different pictures, was Cassian. Younger, less polished, but definitely him, so they had history, more than she'd let on. I sat on the bedroom floor, surrounded by boxes and memories, holding photos of my wife with the man she was leaving me for, and something clicked. This wasn't just an affair. This was a reunion. Isolde and Cassian had probably loved each other once, broken up for whatever reason, spent 20 years wondering what if. Then they'd reconnected and decided to rewrite their history. I was just collateral damage. The husband who got in the way of their second chance. Understanding that made it easier. I wasn't losing Isolde to someone better. I was losing her to a fantasy she'd been chasing since college. Monday morning, I changed the locks. Had a locksmith come out at 8 a.m., paid extra for rush service. By 9, every entry to the apartment had new keys, and Isolde's old ones were useless. I called her at 9:15. Locks are changed, I said. Your stuff is in the storage unit downstairs. Unit 47. I'll leave the key at the front desk. Gideon, I've contacted a divorce attorney. You'll get papers this week. We can do this easy or hard. Your choice. I don't want a divorce. You should have thought of that before you started planning your escape to Dallas. How did you... She stopped. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. This is crazy. We need to talk face to face. We did. In the parking garage. That was your chance to be honest. You chose to stand there silent. Because you ambushed us. I saved you from making the worst mistake of your life. Cassian's a fraud, Isolde. His company's one bad deal away from bankruptcy. His last 2 ventures failed. He's not the successful businessman you think he is. Silence. Then, you're lying. Check for yourself. It's all public record. More silence. I could hear her breathing, processing. Even if that's true, she said finally, It doesn't change how I feel. How you feel? How you feel? I laughed, surprised by how bitter it sounded. You felt entitled to steal $32,000 from our savings. You felt fine lying to me for 9 months. You felt great introducing me as your roommate at parties. So forgive me if your feelings aren't my top priority right now. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Congratulations. I hung up, blocked her number. Then I called my attorney and started the paperwork. Turns out, divorces are expensive and complicated and designed to drag out as long as possible while lawyers bill by the hour. My attorney, Patricia Chen, was a shark. 50-something expensive suits, reputation for destroying cheating spouses in court. Rita had recommended her after her own divorce 10 years ago. "This is good," Patricia said, reviewing my documentation. We were in her office on Tuesday afternoon, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Houston. "Very good. You've got texts, bank records, hotel receipts. Texas is a community property state, but adultery affects how assets are divided. How long will this take?" "Depends. If she fights it, 6 months to a year. If she agrees to terms, could be done in 60 days. "And the money she took from our accounts?" Patricia smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "That's where things get interesting. She can argue it was community property, and she had every right to move it around. But the amount, the timing, the pattern, it demonstrates intent to deceive. We can argue financial fraud. Will that work? In family court? Maybe. But here's the thing. Going scorched earth costs money, a lot of money. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about it, about spending thousands on legal fees just to prove Isolde had wronged me, about months of depositions and hearings and fighting over every piece of furniture. "What if I don't fight?" I asked. Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Meaning? What if I just want out? Fast and clean. She keeps what she took, I keep the rest. We're done." "That's very generous considering she cheated and stole from you." "It's practical. I want to move on with my life, not spend a year relitigating our marriage. Most people in your situation want revenge. I want peace." That was a lie. I wanted revenge. But I'd learned enough about Isolde and Cassian to know that the best revenge wouldn't come from a courtroom. It would come from watching them destroy themselves. Patricia drew up papers. Simple divorce, no fault, equitable division of assets. Isolde could keep the money in her personal account. I'd keep my consulting income and my truck. We'd split the furniture. Done. I signed on Wednesday. Isolde got served on Thursday. She called from an unknown number Friday morning. "Are you serious?" she demanded. "This is what you want?" "Yes." "Just like that? You're giving up?" "I'm letting you go. There's a difference." "The papers say I can keep everything in my personal account." "Correct. That's over $40,000. "I know." "Why would you do that?" "Because," I thought, "I want you to have enough money to run to Dallas with Cassian. I want you to think you've won. I want you both to build your little fantasy life, and then I want to watch it collapse." "Because I'm tired," I said out loud. "I'm tired of fighting, tired of being angry. I just want this over." She was quiet for a long time. "This doesn't feel like you. Maybe you never knew me as well as you thought." "Gideon, just sign the papers, Isolde. Please, let's both move on." She signed Tuesday. By Wednesday, we were officially separated pending finalization. The whole thing took less than 2 weeks. Rita thought I was crazy. "You just let her walk away with 40 grand? She'd come over to help me move into a new apartment, smaller place in Montrose, closer to downtown, actual personality instead of builder-grade blandness." "Yep. Why?" "Because holding on to it means staying connected to her. I'd rather lose the money and lose her." Rita set down the box she was carrying. "Bullshit." "Excuse me?" "That's bullshit and you know it. You've got a plan. I can see it all over your face." I smiled. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Gideon Hawke, I've known you your whole life. You didn't spend weeks documenting evidence just to roll over and play dead. Maybe I'm evolving, becoming a better person. Maybe you're full of it." She wasn't wrong, but I couldn't tell her the real plan, couldn't tell anyone. Because here's the thing about cons, and Cassian Vey was absolutely a con artist. They require marks who believe they're winning. Isolde had $40,000, freedom from our marriage, and a boyfriend promising her the world. She thought she'd gotten away clean. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything about Cassian too. His business was smoke and mirrors. Vey Development Group had 3 active projects, all of them behind schedule and over budget. He'd borrowed heavily from investors, people I'd identified through public records, and was now juggling payments like a street performer with flaming torches. His previous company had collapsed because he'd overextended on a commercial project, defaulted on loans, left investors holding worthless paper. He'd changed the company name, moved to a new city, and started over. Now he was doing the same thing in Houston. The building Cassian had been boasting about at the party, the one with rooftop gardens, was hemorrhaging money. The contractor had filed a lien 2 months ago for unpaid work. The bank was threatening foreclosure on the construction loan, and I had proof of all of it. I'd spent my evenings researching, calling in favors from people in the industry, piecing together Cassian's house of cards. Now, I just needed to decide when to knock it over. I settled into my new apartment over the next week. It was a 3rd-floor walk-up in an old building that had been converted to condos in the 90s. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, windows that actually opened. Nothing like the sterile apartment complex Isolde had chosen. I liked it. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Isolde." I deleted it. Another text. "Please, it's important." I blocked the number. 2 days later, she showed up at my apartment. I'd just gotten home from a site inspection in Baytown when I found her sitting on the stairs outside my door. "How did you get my address?" I asked. "Rita." "Damn it." "Don't be mad at her," I begged. Isolde stood up. She looked tired. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer outfits. "Can we please talk?" "We've talked." "No, we've fought, and ended things, and signed papers, but we haven't actually talked." I unlocked my door. 5 minutes. She followed me inside, looking around at the boxes still unpacked, the furniture I'd picked up cheap from estate sales. "It's nice," she said. "Very you." "Thanks. I mean it. Our old place never felt like yours. This does." I grabbed a water from the fridge, didn't offer her one. "Clock's ticking." She sat on my second-hand couch. "I'm moving to Dallas." "Good luck with that." "With Cassian. We found a place. 2-bedroom loft in Uptown." "Congratulations." "Gideon, I'm trying to what? Make me feel better about you leaving? Give me closure? Apologize without actually apologizing?" She flinched. "I'm trying to explain." "I don't need explanations. You wanted him more than you wanted me. You wanted a different life. You got it. We're done." "It's not that simple." "It really is." She stood up, paced to the window. "You were never there. For months, years really, you were always working, always on some site, some project. I'd try to talk to you and you'd be on your laptop, checking emails, planning the next job. I was building a career, trying to give us financial security. I didn't need financial security. I needed a partner. You had one. You just didn't want him. Because you stopped trying." Her voice rose. "When's the last time we went on a date? Or had a real conversation about something other than bills? When's the last time you looked at me like you actually wanted me? When's the last time you treated me like anything other than a roommate who paid half the rent?" We stood there, old arguments finally spilling out. "I loved you," Isolde said quietly. "I did. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being married and started being, I don't know, co-workers, living parallel lives in the same space. So instead of talking to me about it, you had an affair. I know that was wrong. But Cassian makes me feel... Don't. I held up my hand. Don't tell me how he makes you feel. I don't care. You should care. Because maybe if you'd made me feel that way, none of this would have happened. That stung. Because part of me wondered if she was right. If I'd been a better husband, more present, more attentive, would she have strayed? But then I remembered the texts, the stolen money, the lies. You're right, I said. I wasn't perfect. I worked too much. I didn't prioritize us. But that doesn't excuse what you did. You didn't just cheat, Isolde. You planned an escape. You stole from our accounts. You treated me like an obstacle instead of a person. I never meant, your 5 minutes are up. Please leave. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the knob. I hope you find someone who deserves you, she said. I hope Dallas is everything you're dreaming of. She left. I sat on my couch in the empty apartment and felt absolutely nothing. That night, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to the primary investor in Cassian's rooftop garden project. I'd gotten his contact information from public records. Name was Robert Finch, owned a construction supply company, had sunk $2 million into Cassian's development. Mr. Finch, my name is Gideon Hawke. I'm a consultant in the energy sector, but I wanted to reach out about a mutual acquaintance, Cassian Vey. Who? Cassian Vey, Vey Development Group. You invested in his current project downtown. Oh, right. Yeah. What about him? I think you should know he has a history of failed developments. His previous company went bankrupt in 2021. Before that, he was sued for fraud by investors in Austin. Silence. Then, how do you know this? Public records, all available online if you know where to look. I just thought you deserved to know what you're really invested in. Why are you telling me this? Because nobody told the last group of investors, and they lost everything. I hung up before he could ask more questions. The second call was to the contractor who'd filed the lien on Cassian's building. I posed as a potential client, asked questions about his experience with Vey Development. Let me tell you about Cassian Vey, the contractor said, anger clear in his voice. He owes me $200,000 for work completed 3 months ago. Keeps promising payment next week, next month, after the next draw from the bank. Meanwhile, my guys aren't getting paid. Have you considered legal action? I've got a lien on the property, but good luck collecting when the bank forecloses. The bank's foreclosing? Any day now. They gave him until end of November to catch up on the construction loan. He won't make it. I thanked him and hung up. The third call was to Isolde. She answered immediately. Gideon? One question. When are you moving to Dallas? December 15th. Why? Just curious. Good night, Isolde. December 15th. That gave me 3 weeks. 3 weeks to make sure that when Isolde and Cassian tried to start their new life, they'd have nothing left to start it with. Cassian's networking event was his last desperate attempt to save Vey Development. The Petroleum Club, Black Tie, Houston Elite. I bought a ticket under Hawke Consulting and wore my best suit. Cassian was charming, confident, oblivious that I was there. Isolde arrived, perfect in red, immediately by his side. I waited until they were deep in conversation with investors, including Robert Finch, then stepped in. How's the rooftop garden project? I asked casually. Cassian faltered. I reminded the group of his bankruptcies, investor losses, and fraud history. Eyes turned to him. Finch stepped forward, concerned. Investors quietly withdrew, calls were made. Cassian's world unraveled in minutes. Isolde called me pathetic. I called it honesty. Later, in the parking lot, Cassian seethed. You destroyed months of work. Your project's failing. Investors are leaving. Foreclosure is coming. You're done. Isolde sneered. He was never really yours. Then you two deserve each other, I said, climbing into my truck and driving off. In the following week, Vey Development collapsed. Bank loans accelerated. Contractors demanded payment. Investors sued. Isolde panicked. Cassian had no solution. By December 10th, their Dallas move was canceled. I kept building my life. They faced the consequences of their choices. Full circle. Christmas week, everything came to a head. Isolde appeared at my apartment on December 23rd, suitcase in hand. "I need help," she said. "No. Please, Gideon. Just a few days." I hesitated. Part of me still remembered loving her. 3 days. Couch. Don't touch my stuff. Minimal talking. She dragged her suitcase inside. "Thank you." Later, I heard her laughing in the bedroom. Real laugh, the one she'd once saved for me. She was on the phone. "No, he didn't notice anything. I miss you too. But we have to be smart." I backed away. Confirmation. She was having an affair with Cassian Vey. The smart move would have been confrontation, but I'd learned patience. Acting on emotion got you hurt. I assessed, I planned, I waited. I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Times, dates, behaviors, her phone calls, Cassian's smug certainty. People underestimated me. Isolde thought she had the upper hand. She was about to find out how wrong she was. January brought unexpected developments. Robert Finch called to thank me for warning him about Cassian, and offered me a job building a petroleum infrastructure division from scratch. By the end of January, I accepted. Better pay, respect, and control over my work. Patricia Chen confirmed the divorce was finalized. Isolde had signed the papers, disappeared, and was out there somewhere starting over. Cassian filed for bankruptcy in February. His name was Mud in Houston real estate. I didn't gloat. Victory was enough. By March, I settled into my new role. Rita invited me over for dinner, where we talked about normal life. She told me Isolde was in Portland, working at a coffee shop. Cassian had moved back to Austin, working entry level. Their falls were complete. In April, I ran into Isolde at a grocery store. We acknowledged each other, exchanged brief words, and parted. No drama, no reconciliation, just two people moving on. I returned to Houston, life and work awaiting me. Months passed. I built my career, gained respect, and moved forward. Cassian was eventually arrested for fraud in Austin. I met Sarah, a kind woman, and began dating casually. Ophelia informed me Isolde regretted her choices, but that was no longer my concern. By December, I was fully over Isolde and Cassian. I spent the holidays with Sarah, enjoying normalcy and hope. The past was behind me. The enemies had fallen, and I had rebuilt my life from scratch. I raised a beer to the city. "To new beginnings," I said. And in that quiet Houston night, I felt free.